What's up, guys, and welcome to the Good Vibes Garage. It's watch review day, and I've got two really exciting watches to show you guys. This is the entirety of my watch collection. I've got a Casio G-Shock GWG2000, which is their second generation Mudmaster watch. And this is my everyday watch. And then I've got a little bit of a lower volume watch here. This is the 44 millimeter Woodward M1 Chronograph by the Detroit Watch Company. We'll go ahead and start off with the Mudmaster because I would assume more people clicked on this video for the Mudmaster review since it's a little bit of a higher volume watch. But I do hope you stick around for the Detroit Watch Company review. That is a very special watch, especially if you are not familiar with the brand. So getting a look at this watch on my wrist, one of my biggest reservations about buying this watch was just the size of it. I considered a first generation Mudmaster, and I think that first watch is a little bit bigger than this second generation, so I decided to go with the second generation. I've got about a 7.5-inch wrist, and in my opinion, I'm just pushing it as far as too large of a face, but I don't think it looks too ridiculous. I didn't want to look like Ben 10 when I bought this watch, and so far, no one has made fun of me yet for it. So, if anything, that is a good sign. Getting a close-up look at this watch, I went with the black on black. You can also get it in, I think, green with some red accents, or they've got a Land Rover edition and they have a new red one now. But I went with the black on black just so it's a little more subtle, a little less Navy SEAL cosplay than the green one. But up close, I think the glass face and the metal bezel really differentiate it from some of the cheaper G-Shock watches. It really catches the light well, and one of my favorite parts about this watch is the forged carbon there. If you can see the detail and kind of the grain structure there. They claim no two of these watches are the same because of the uniqueness of that forged carbon, and I do think that is a really nice aspect of the watch. Getting a look at the back of it, it is stainless steel, and it does have these nice shoulder pads that help the watch sit quite comfortably on your wrist. I think if I had to pick, my only downsides of this watch, in my opinion, is just the creakiness that the shoulders provide sometimes when it moves around or you're readjusting it on your wrist. It does feel a little cheap in those regards. But besides that, I absolutely love this watch as a daily wear watch. I started off daily wearing this watch, but I'll go into detail why that didn't turn out the best in a little bit here. As far as the functions go, you have a barometer, an altimeter, you've got a compass, a thermometer, and it does have the updates every night via radio waves for the time. So that is also one of my favorite aspects, not having to set this watch or readjust it monthly. As far as the usefulness of the features go, I mainly use the barometer when I'm out in Colorado, getting quick checks for the ambient pressure when working. That's super helpful. The thermometer is basically useless if you're wearing it. I think you'd have to set it aside off your hand, off your wrist to get any type of an accurate reading. And the compass is cool. I haven't gotten lost in the woods yet though, so haven't really needed to use that. But I searched around for watches, and this one really caught my eye. relatively low cost to what you get. I mean, this watch is seemingly indestructible, at least from what I've seen. I really haven't gotten any scratches on it, on the glass, on the metal here, and more often than not, I sometimes run into the wall with these shoulders that protect the face of the watch, and I've actually taken some pretty big chunks out of the wall and scratched the wall. So if that's any indication how tough this watch is, it's got my stamp of approval. Switching gears to the M1-Woodward by Detroit Watch Company. This is a 44 millimeter chronograph watch, and it is a mechanical watch. It's got a Valjoux 7750 movement, whereas the Mudmaster here is a solar quartz movement. So with that Valjoux movement, this watch is a caseback watch. So you've got this caseback window where you can see this absolutely beautiful movement. You can see all the springs and gears and the rotor on the back of it. And I'm not sure if this camera is going to be able to pick it up, but there's even fleur-de-lis details inside this caseback. So for those of you who don't live in Michigan and aren't familiar with what Woodward is, what this watch is named after, I highly recommend you look up the road. So Woodward is the M1 highway in Michigan. It is the home to probably the biggest car show in the world, every third Saturday in August in the summer. It was the first paved highway in the US. I mean, I think it's the home of street drag racing. It is honestly my happy place. If you go there on a Friday or Saturday night in the summer, you've got classic cars cruising, there's modern cars. I used to take my C5 Z06 there pretty much every weekend when I had that car, and it's just a load of fun. So to find a watch that really captures the passion behind that street, and it's more than a road. That's the simplest way I can put it. So to find a watch made by a local company here, by the Detroit Watch Company, this was a no-brainer for me. So I actually bought this as a graduation present to myself after I got my master's, and it took a bit of savings, but I absolutely love this watch. Some of the additional details you can see on the back there engraved in the watch is every city in Michigan that M1 runs through. So this watch, honestly, the back of it's so pretty. It's hard to want to actually wear it sometimes. So the front of the watch is a little more subtle. You can see it's got M1 chronograph written on there. You have a few Detroit D's. And other than that, it is quite a subtle watch from the front, which I like. It's definitely pretty chunky. The Valjoux 7750 movement is on the larger side, but this watch just feels so nice to wear. You've got the additional fleur-de-lis there on the side, and I've got it with the brown leather strap that it came with. So let's go ahead and put this watch on. So as you can see, a little bit more of a more reasonable size on the wrist than the Mudmaster is, and the Mudmaster makes a 44 millimeter watch look small in comparison. As I alluded to earlier in the video, I started off by wearing this watch every day, and I think my lifestyle must be just a little too rough on it. I didn't have any serious drops or anything like that, but at some point about almost a year into buying the watch, the rotor actually came loose, and I had to get the watch serviced under warranty by Patrick, who provided Patrick's the owner of the company, and I think he designs all the watches and assembles them himself as well. And the service experience was super smooth. I'm very thankful for that, but that run-in just kind of made me realize I probably need to be a little more careful with this watch. So it only comes out on special occasions now, unfortunately, just because this is a watch I would love to pass down eventually one day, and I wouldn't want anything to happen to it. So honestly, I've got nothing negative to say about this watch. It's a beautiful piece, and I think it is so affordable when you compare with some of the other watches that have this same movement. The uniqueness, whether you live in Michigan or not, I mean, this watch is going to be a piece of history, in my opinion. All the watches do come serialized, which is another cool aspect. And right now, I checked the other day, they actually don't have any 44 millimeters at the moment of the M1. So they do have some 42 millimeters, but it is cool to think that they may never produce any of these 44 millimeter sizes again. The only negatives have nothing to do with this particular watch, in my opinion. It's just negatives associated with a mechanical watch in general. So obviously, with mechanical watches, unlike the solar-powered quartz movement that lasts 30 days, the reserve on this, the reserve of mechanical energy, only lasts about 48 hours if you're lucky. So if you want to be able to pick this watch up in the morning and have it telling the time, you either had to have been wearing it all day yesterday or have it on a winder. If you let this watch sit on your desk for a few days and pick it up, you are going to have to wear it around for about 20 minutes before you see that second hand start ticking. So that's one thing to take into consideration. And then the other thing, I mean, as I touched on earlier, is just the fragility of these watches. They're awesome when they're working, but service on a watch like this, just to get it looked at, is going to be a couple $100. So, my main motivation for getting the G-Shock was 2 services on this watch would have paid for the G-Shock already. So that's how I rationalize that to myself. And, just really am cognizant and try and be a little more protective of this watch. One of the unique quirks about this watch, and I'm not sure if the camera will pick up this audio, but the rotor on these Valjoux are notoriously noisy. So sometimes you'll be sitting there. Let's see if we can get it to spin for a while. Sometimes you'll be sitting there and you'll slightly move your wrist and you'll just feel that rotor and hear that rotor. So hopefully this video helps you guys out. If you are interested in either of these 2 watches, I give you the green light. Go check out Detroit Watch Company and Patrick's watches. This is really a made in Michigan gem, in my opinion. And if you are interested in a little bit of a tougher watch, I would highly recommend the G-Shock Mudmaster as well.